Okay, everybody, welcome. Day two of the Ultimate Puppy, the Marka Ultimate Puppy Course lives with myself and Di Martin. So we're talking all this week about pivotal things that are integral with raising a puppy to be a great adult dog. I'm just going to make sure, as always, that we are coming out live. There's sometimes, all good. We're coming out live. So hopefully people will join us. And if you obviously want to ask questions about what we're discussing, really great topic today, or the course, the Ultimate Puppy Course, which is available now for people to sign up for. We've already had people signing up for it, which is super exciting. We want people to get access to the content. As I said yesterday and the day before, in my opinion, oh so humble opinion, it's without a shadow of a doubt the best online puppy course that's available, and I would put my mortgage and my life and my reputation on the back of it. It's based on Di's Click to Heal and puppy course initially, and it's been essentially rebooted and upgraded, so we're super proud of it. Di, you're very dark. Are you like sitting in a dark hovel or a cave, are you?
Well, probably because when I open the windows, you get too much kind of light, like the glare off that window. I can turn my lights on if you prefer, but I think you'll get a yellow then.
I want to see your face.
Want to see my face? Is that any better? Can I get a yellow glow?
Yeah, that's it. Yellow's good with your hair as well. Okay, guys. So today we're talking about socialization and adding a couple of little words to that, which at Marka we're really keen to make sure that people understand. So you've got socialization, you've got acclimatization, you've got habituation, and you've got desensitization. And whilst we've only got a little bit of time today to talk about socialization broadly, those words are going to be ones that you really want to get your head around with when you're raising your puppy to be a confident, well-adjusted adult and hopefully family pair. There's a lot of misunderstandings about socialization. And for the longest time, I think people adhered to the belief system that you needed to get your dog out or your puppy out to meet as many things and as many situations as you possibly could in a space of a week. I'm not entirely sure where that thinking came from, but it definitely was something that I think a lot of people adhered to and followed. And in my opinion, and I'd say, for Marka's opinion and Di's opinion, that was probably doing more harm than good. But when we know better, we do better. So we've definitely we're more understanding about how to socialize effectively and efficiently. So, Di, what's your thoughts about socialization? Some things that you do and that obviously we teach at Marka. Share it with those people that pick this live up.
Yeah, I mean, socialization, I suppose, if you look at the kind of definition, I suppose, is more about your dog being able to behave in a kind of socially appropriate manner around other species, and whether that's dogs, people, or whether you have other pets. So a cat, maybe you've got chickens in the garden. So it's about being able to behave in a socially kind of appropriate way. And there's lots of kind of skills that we can teach our dog, that encourage them to do. If you look at, well mature adult dogs, often they might look at something and then do a head turn and go and sniff, just to kind of, and I see this, my adult dogs doing it with puppies as well, just to say, like, I'm no threat to you. And so it's about teaching those skills. So we essentially want to kind of teach the same skills to the puppy, and we'll go through this on the course, but kind of, look, create space if you need it, if you're uncomfortable, rather than feeling you have to go towards it and kind of, see it as a threat and defend that we can easily kind of create space, I think is a key skill to be teaching your puppy. Look at things and sniff, other key skills to be teaching them, and generally kind of calm behaviors. I suppose in my courses and on the course, we try to teach puppies to kind of greet at a reasonable arousal level. I always like to say, if arousal's 0, very, very calm, almost asleep, to 10, very excited, I want them to greet in that arousal level 3, 4, maximum 5. I don't really want them greeting, being prepared to pull towards things that they're essentially got a little bit of kind of excitement and anxiety because I don't know how this is going to go, and letting them go in with all that bubbly feeling. Just creating a little bit more space, having a little bit of duration around that new thing in the environment before we kind of build up to that greeting, just to make the puppy kind of feel comfortable. So we're getting them into, again, good patterns of behavior, and building their confidence, and also those emotions that are going to be formed of those patterns. Excuse my just guarding a chew in the background, I think.
Good dog-to-dog communication there.
Yeah, so dog communication going on there. It's funny, I was watching a seminar by someone talking about dogs learning to, defend their resources, while I was videoing these guys protecting a bone the other day. And it was quite entertaining watching 3 of them trying to get the same bone. Whilst the seminar was talking about it in the background.
Live. Jai is jesting. They weren't literally fighting.
So yeah, I mean that's my view on socialization. It's taking it slowly. Yes, I think there is, a critical kind of period in the puppy's development up to about 12 weeks. But then you've got another 2-3 years ahead of you to kind of take things slowly. You've still got that kind of rapid brain development going on, and you can still kind of, tweak things and be kind of learning to socialize all throughout that period in their life. So I don't think there's a huge rush, and certainly not to get in there, just getting some reference material for later on. I've seen a high-vis jacket from, 30 meters away. That's enough reference material for now. We can progress that to 20 meters, 10 meters, 5 meters as the puppy's kind of getting older. So it's not, you need to be stroked by the dustbin man to be okay with that at 11 weeks old, certainly, because, often you're going to overwhelm the puppy then and cause kind of negative kind of emotions. Potentially. So, and it's playing it with the individual puppy as well. You've got to look at the individual, hopefully you've had a good discussion with the breeder about what they've done with it so far, so you know what the puppy's learning experiences have been so far, so that you can work at the right speed for that puppy.
Yeah. So the end goal, in my opinion, and Di and I share the same philosophy, is we want our dogs to view the world in what we call the so what bubble. So the dog sees something and it sort of shrugs its shoulders and goes, so what? Well, so what a dustman, so what a dog. So the dog learns to have indifference to things within its environment. The reason that's more conducive to long-term dog ownership is because we don't want the dog, the classic thing that we've all heard, oh, he's only friendly, he just wants to say hello, and we can see that our dogs are visibly concerned about the dog approaching. The person doesn't have any recall or connection with their dog, and as a result of that, the dog invades your dog's personal space, and that can create a negative emotional response. So it's really important that we, as owners of puppies, we raise them away to see the world in that so what bubble, so that they are indifferent to everything within their environment and primarily confident, happy. They're not concerned about it, but focused on us. They trust us and they have confidence in us. And that's what we're really aiming for. So everything in the way in which we raise our puppies is guided and structured to create a dog that sees the world in the so what bubble. Oh, so what a dog, so what a person, so what a dustman, so what a noise, so what, and so forth and so forth. So think about that when you're raising your puppy. It's really important. I think sometimes people can get a little bit too intense about taking their puppy to lots of different environments in that interim period. So from when you get the puppy home from the breeder, and then taking it just before, probably, or out and about after, but depending on whether you inoculate or not, or when the puppy's just before it enters that fear period, when it starts to tease and it gets sensitive to the environment. People want to immerse their puppies in a lot of different environments. And whilst that might be done with good intentions, often we can't control the things that our puppy meets depending on the environment. Ideally, we should. Often people will be overzealous in their socialization. And as a result, those early learnings can have a great impact on that dog's temperament moving forward. So it's really important that we view the world constantly from the dog's perspective. If you don't have access to a plethora of breeds, you're better off waiting until you do find the right dog and the right experience for that dog to have, as opposed to using the one that's accessible. So, for example, if your dog, and we believe strongly in socializing your dogs with as many different types of dogs, so they learn to have a broad and diverse dialect in their dog-to-dog interaction. If, for example, your intention is to socialize your dog with, you've got, for example, my little poodle, and I want her to meet a Labrador or a Labrador type. I might not have access to a Labrador with sufficient training, with the right social skills, that has a good sound temperament at this point in her development. So I'm better off waiting 6 months until I do source one that's going to create the right emotional response, as opposed to me using a dog that's local or over the park, which I don't know their reaction, I don't know their response, and I don't know how well trained they are. And as a result of that, my puppy's going to have a negative experience, and that could impact them long term. So really think about socialization. We feel really passionately about socialization at Marka, in that it's almost a process in itself. You've got your training of your sit and your down and your settling in a crate. But socialization is a huge conversation to have with your dog constantly. And as Di said, it doesn't just happen from the day you get the puppy till 12 weeks and that's it, stopped. It is ongoing, and being mindful of navigating those particularly sensitive periods that fear period as your dog enters adolescence is really, really integral. So, Di, how about the process of desensitization, habituation, and acclimatization? Any thoughts on those buzzwords?
Well, I thought it was more kind of going with the conversation, talking a little bit more firstly about acclimatization, which I might call kind of familiarization, which I kind of use with my clients is about the kind of 4 S's. So sights, sounds, surfaces, smells. So obviously, your puppy is getting used to the kind of whole world. It's not just socialization that's taking place outside. There's, lots of different noises, lots of different smells, things going on outside, different textures to kind of walk on. So, that early socialization that you're talking before 12 weeks, obviously, a lot of vets will be saying to you, not to put them on the floor until they're inoculated, and they're right to be doing so. You want your puppy to be safe, but there's lots you can do in the way of familiarization and socialization prior to those vaccinations being complete. And I think one thing that we haven't mentioned yet is the importance of sleep. So being able to set your dog up for success and making sure that they're well rested before you take them out for these kind of early experiences, because there's so much for them to take on board. Imagine you were teleported to another planet that had oxygen. It would have evolved completely differently. Think of all the different noises, the vegetation would have grown differently. There's so much for you to take on board. And that in itself is, going to be firing off kind of lots of little neuro pathways in their brain. And there's only so much that they can cope with. So, trying to understand the emotions of your puppy, which hopefully you're doing by all your interactions that you're doing at home, and looking for those emotional responses, being at sensible distances, so that you're not, sensitizing them to anything. Because, if they do get sensitive to something, which may happen, we can't control the environment. So a kid comes around the corner in a scooter straight in front of you, and you've got puppy in your arms, maybe doing a little carry walk, and it gets a little bit spooked by that. Those situations can happen, and they might be a little bit sensitive to it. And yes, then we might need to, we need to clock that and say, okay, that wasn't a great situation with the puppy. It kind of coped, but then I may be looking at doing some work with some scooters at bigger distances, at different angles, not coming head on, so I'd be taking into account everything that's happened on that walk. And, after an event like that, I'm looking to kind of get home kind of, as not as soon as I can. I don't want to go, oh, you got scared, let's take you home to safety. I want the puppy to be able to calm down within that environment before I do that. So, see your kind of house or your car as the kind of safe place, and just do, drift away from the car this direction, see what's going on there, drift away, come back to safety. You can keep coming back to safety. I have a licky mat in the van, and often I'll walk away and let them see a few things, come back and give them a little bit of time on the licky mat, and then walk away in a different direction. Let's look at what's happening over here. And I would do that in lots of different situations, whether it's a supermarket car park, whether it's at the train station, and sometimes I'm just working on the noise, maybe the train coming into the station, but they're not actually looking at it. They're on their licky mat at the time, and then I'm observing, do you just carry on licking? You're not bothered by that noise, or do you have to stop and listen to the noise? So really kind of watching the kind of puppy's reactions, I think that's really important. And then when they come home, giving them that downtime, that sleep time to kind of process all of that learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really, really great points there. And another thing to consider is that sometimes if you have a puppy that lack a little bit of confidence, what is a great way to build their confidence is to take them to environments where they can be away from distractions, and they can be, they can maybe there's some distance away, and interact with them and build up a classical conditioned response of them enjoying interacting with you, because that can build their confidence out in the big wide world. When you've got a dog that's a bit more sensitive, if you do something with it, like play some fun games, which is again covered extensively in the Ultimate Puppy course, and you can do things like cheesy trees, or you can do enrichment games, or you can do just playing with them. What that does is it starts to condition them that the world isn't necessarily something where to be concerned about, and they start to change the way they feel about the world in general. Actually, Di's dog Tink was a great example of that. As a puppy, she was a little bit timid and apprehensive about things, but through her training and that relationship she has with Di and her desire to interact, actually what it's done is it made her really, really confident in herself, because she starts to see the world as something that where good things happen to her, as opposed to somewhere where a place where people might intrude in her personal space. She was just a very sensitive dog. She didn't like people interacting with her or fussing her or being too intrusive with her. And because of the way in which Di's reared her, she's now developed into a really, really confident little dog, which we've used on. She comes and meets at the Marka course, and she meets people, and she's a little social butterfly. She'll always have that level of we need to have a little bit of what would I say, respect for who she is. So and it's not that she's a concern or she's a problem. It's just that some situations she'd avoid and just walk away from, as opposed to whereas Di's other dog, Mimic, for example, she would be all over you like a rash. It's just different personalities. Would you say that's a fair insight into Tink, Di?
Absolutely. So as a puppy, I made an effort to, and I always say to my clients, create a safe place for what you're talking about. So I've got a regular I've got probably 2 or 3 parks I've built up now that when she was young, I built up to 2 or 3 parks where I would go, and I'd formed all of these lovely emotions at home playing these games and got them in the garden. Right now, can we do them in the middle of a relatively kind of quiet field so that we're enjoying going outside? But then just making the effort to do those, quiet supermarket times. So let's go to the supermarket at 8 o'clock in the morning when it's not that busy, or in the summer I might go later in the evening when it's just closing. I would go to a multi-story car park and maybe play some fun games in the multi-story car park when it was empty, and then we can build up as it's getting a little bit more busy. Well, let's just do some more kind of familiarization and let's look around at the environment. So I think it's just getting that balance, and that's where you have to kind of tweak things for the individual dog. And definitely I think ultimately you want your dog to be responding to you outside, but there's getting that balance with, you've got to let them see the world, sitting and watching the world go by in the right situations, and then in other situations, doing all those kind of training games and having fun outside, and building up, you'll be able to see by certain things that I might teach you, which are on the course, like we'll call it cue seeking, looking at you, cue seeking on the move. And when I was first doing that with her in the field, she'd be looking at me knowing what I want because it was well trained at home, and then there'd be a little noise, she'd be like, oh, what's that? And as you can see, the kind of confidence grows, and she wouldn't need to be looking at those sounds or reacting to those sounds. And that, gives you a little bit of data to kind of how they're coming on, kind of watching those kind of things as well.
Absolutely. It was, and watching her blossom in her confidence, obviously, because I've known Tink since she's a puppy, has been really, really fascinating to watch how, by using the approach that we outlined in the Ultimate Puppy course, how that, like a living, breathing example of it happening, which was, great. And obviously that's shared on the course extensively. So in terms of socialization, what do you think is the biggest mistakes that people make with their dogs then, that you would suggest they strongly avoid?
I think a few mistakes, really overwhelming them and just putting them in situations where they can't cope. Actually, I'm going to name 3: being overtired when they're doing those things, and not keep going back to the safe place. They want to walk all around the block, or maybe, there's lots, isn't there? Choosing the wrong environments for them. Let's walk around the block where we've got 30-mile-an-hour constant traffic, and we've got people coming out to work, and there's just, that's overwhelming, isn't it? So, choose the right locations, make sure your puppy's well rested, a lot of my clients don't realize how much food I get through on a walk, when on those early walks, just trying to reinforce different things that they're seeing and trying to help shape their emotional responses a little bit and giving them a little bit of a steer. And also, taking toys out and things like that, so that I've got developing all of those tools as well, which is what the course is about. What tools do you need out and about, as well as, when do you use which tool? It's okay teaching people all these tools, but then how do you use them? In what situation? When would I do a treat party? When am I going to get my toy out? When's the right situation? What I don't want to do is be playing with my dog when it's already a little bit anxious in the environment, because I might put that anxiety into toy play. So it is about understanding your dog's emotions, understanding the tools enough as to when to use them, and that does come with experience and practice. And it's why I try and encourage my clients, particularly if they're first-time dog owners, to at least do some one-to-ones where we're going out with them and we can give them a little bit of a running commentary, or they can watch us handle the puppy and put those tools into practice in various scenarios when certain things are happening, and then we can stop and talk about those and why we use those in that situation. And I think that's really educational for people as well.
Yeah, excellent. Just to recap, so tiredness, massive thing. I think people grossly underestimate how much sleep puppies need. and what I call essentially forced rest, where the puppy will want to be running around with their buddies or hooning around the house all day. If you let them, you need to say, no, puppy, you're going to have some rest in a quiet place away from the hustle and bustle of home, so they can go into that real deep sleep. Really, really important. The amount of behavioral issues or challenges people have linked to overtiredness is endless. Probably the majority of the clients that I have and Di has that contact us with puppies that haven't subscribed to the course with problems, it'll probably be, I would go as far as say 90% are related to lack of sleep.
And I think kind of people can make the mistake of going, well, I'm working from home all day and actually it's sleeping under the desk. But then every time you use the toilet and get up and move around, the puppy's waking up and following you. And I suppose an analogy I would use to my clients, if you put your kids to bed at night and then just woke them up every half an hour through the night, how are they going to function at school the next day? So Absolutely. It's really important to have that solid sleep, which I think you only really get by creating a safe place, whether that's a pen, whether it's a crate, whether it's the utility room that you've built up, but somewhere where, if I walk past the pen and the puppy's waking up, then to me a pen wouldn't be good enough. I must admit, I always find I get better solid sleep in crates, but I would base it on the individual kind of puppy and what experiences they've had so far as to whether I would use a pen setup and have it in a situation where I wasn't going to be disturbing the puppies, so they got used to kind of just sleeping through things within that environment. They need that solid sleep.
Definitely. So solid sleep is a good one. Not overwhelming them with too much too soon. Again, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon raising a puppy to be a confident adult. Take your time, don't rush the process. Really, really important. Thinking about the environment that you take them in. Be really often what people will do when they get puppies is they want to integrate the dog into their routine as and when they get the puppy, and that's a fatal error. You need to first figure out what suits the puppy based on whether it's from a breeder, rescue, etc., and then slowly integrate the puppy into your routine. So if your long-term objective is to go out your front door and walk across the road to the park that's just very conveniently placed across the road, but you have to cross a really busy road. For me, I would avoid that with a puppy, because that trigger or the stimulation of the vehicles could be stressful for the puppy. I would rather put it in my car, even though I have to drive it to a more secluded location initially. Once the puppy's got confident and I know a little bit more about the puppy and its sensitivity, some puppies are not going to bother. You could have a dog super robust, wouldn't really care, trot down the street, no drama. But if you have a puppy or a breeder dog that's a little bit more sensitive, you need to be mindful of those little tiny things, because whilst puppies can appear to be coping, they could be internalizing it, and that's where you see those emotions build up. So think about the environments that you take them to. Really, really important. And as Di says about the amount of reinforcement that she uses, always have your reinforcement with you. Remember, if you don't have reinforcement, you're effectively turning up to a gunfight armed with a knife. You need to have something that's going to be palatable, that the dog's going to want. We encourage people to use their meals or high-value reinforcement when you're training and interacting with your puppy, to not only classically condition and build that relationship, but to build that positive association with the things that could potentially cause them to be fearful. So we've got a couple of questions, so I'm going to have a look at those. So first one is, does this approach work well with older dogs as well? Di, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, it depends on the kind of age of the dog, I would say. But absolutely, I would use very similar techniques with a lot of my clients. Remember, that brain isn't really kind of fully developed. I probably have to do my research on that as full development, but I would say it's around kind of 4 or 5 years old. So they're always, they're still in their, particularly through adolescence, you've still got a rapid kind of stage. So although people say there's this critical socialization window to 12 weeks and a critical kind of socialization period, your socialization is really going to continue until sexual maturity, to kind of 3 or 4 years old. And yes, if I picked up a 5-year-old rescue dog with limited experiences, or if I picked up a 5-year-old rescue dog anyway, I'm going to go right back to basics, because I don't know what learning that dog's had. I'm going to go right back to basics and steer it in the way I would a very young kind of dog.
Absolutely. Treat it like a blank canvas. So if you're going back and trying to fix a problem with a dog, then an older dog, always revert back to their foundation and revisit. That's why the Ultimate Puppy course isn't just for puppies. It's for anybody that just wants to start with a clean slate and to start off with their dog, their new dog, their rescue dog, their rehome dog, on the best possible footing. I've had all the above. I've had puppies, I've had rescue dogs, I've had rehome dogs. I've had all the above at various ages from 5 months to 3 years old, and I would raise and approach it in exactly as we've said, as if they're a blank canvas and they know nothing, and I treat them like a puppy and build it up. So yeah, absolutely, it's very effective for older dogs. Okay,
I think with any dog, as you just mentioned, foundations are absolutely key. And I think we had, this conversation because at the moment we're developing the kind of adolescent module, so the progression from the puppy course. And then there's that, well, if people haven't seen the puppy course, you've got all the foundations in there. If they haven't got those foundations, then, so the foundations are so key. And, I stress to my clients all the time, you need all these foundations in place, because when you hit adolescence, you're going to realize how important they are. Because that's the time when you kind of your kind of nature nurture, isn't it, kind of coming out, and there's instincts coming out in the dog, and they're going into higher risk taking mode and more thrill seeking, and trying to get those quick wins all the time, and that's the time when you're going to need strong foundations. I mean, I always think adolescence is so much harder than puppies.
Absolutely, I would say puppies, I wouldn't go as far. It's definitely easier than adolescence. I'd say adolescence. I think the biggest misconception people have, one of the mistakes that you consistently get, doesn't matter who you are, how you train, etc., is people attend their puppy course and they finish the puppy course and they sort of shake your hand, they say thank you very much, and that's it, we're done, and off they go into
and the puppy's really good at that stage, so you can see why people think that. You think, yeah, they're coming back when they're called and they're doing this and I've got all these foundations going, and then they slack off the training and poof, adolescent hits, and
then they ring you up in about 6 months and say, oh my God, what's happened to my puppy? And you're like, yeah, it was. So the key thing is to keep up that training. It's what you do in that initial period. I always say to people, equate it to raising a child. If you think logically what you have to teach a child to do in their first year of being on this planet, literally eating, sleeping, toileting, what to wear, what not to wear, how to talk, how to walk, the endless things that we educate our children with the hope that they're going to be an adult that's going to, be well adjusted and be able to function in society and be a well adjusted human being and contribute to the community and so forth.
And you've got 10 to 12 years education with a child before they hit adolescence. So you've got, you've got a little bit more time.
Absolutely. So that 18 month or that couple of years investments that you make with your puppies, to really get them how you want them, to mold them to the dog that you want to own, earns you the right to have a joyful companion for the next, hopefully, 15 years. Absolutely. Okay, let's have a look at the next question. All controversial one. Are puppy parties inherently a bad idea? Oh, Di, you take the lead on this one. I'm going to sidestep it.
Well, I do puppy parties at the vets, but actually we've changed the name of them to puppy hints and tip sessions. Even puppies sitting on owners' laps in a room is, good. That's positive socialization. Just being relaxed and calm, and you can give owners some tips. Not at every, I had one, what day we did? Tuesday evening, I had one. So that was last night, was it? And we probably had 2 overtired, bigger dogs, a lab and a mixed breed. And then we actually had 4 littlies, and they did actually all get to say hello. It was a really kind of good group of puppies. Couple a little bit overtired, but they kind of calmed down once they got used to kind of sitting still with their owners and things like that, and we got much better greetings. Obviously when they're all coming in, it's a bit woo, so I do get people to just pop them on my lap so that they feel safe and they can acclimatize to the environment a little bit better. So those kind of situations that are controlled, and I think you've got people there in the know. I do have a lot of clients that will go to kind of garden centre kind of puppy things, which is a little bit of a more free for all and unmanaged. And I would say more often than not, the dog develops kind of fear issues or over arousal issues around other dogs. So you've got to remember, you want your dog in the future to be able to walk on by a dog and ignore it. You want them to do quick greetings and move on, and you need to develop those play skills. And what we don't want to do is overdo any one of them, because if we're just going to play, how are you going to walk past a dog and ignore it? You're making your life a little bit harder. So I'm on the fence about it. If they're well run, I think they can be great for puppies, but it's getting that kind of balancing act. I've got a lady at the moment that I'm training that's done them, and to be honest, the dog's, you know, very, very familiar with other dogs, but she does have that problem passing dogs on the street, and the dog wants to say hello to every dog, and is a little bit, you know, hyper kind of around dogs and a little bit kind of manic around dogs because of that play activity. Would I do it with my dog? No.
I think that answers the question, Di. Yeah. So I will wait.
But I've got access. I'm a dog trainer, and I've got access to, I've got the knowledge, I've got access to other dogs where I can build that up. So, you know, if you've only got a dog and you haven't got access to that, would I potentially use them? Yes, but I'd be bringing my knowledge with me, and I'd be reviewing that and looking at the puppies and watching, and which puppy do I want my dog to say hello to? So I think if you've got the knowledge and you're sensible, I think they could be a good idea. And if I didn't know anyone in the dog world and I have my current knowledge and I got myself a puppy, I might be tempted to utilize that.
So I think, again, as Di, just to reiterate, I'm not anti-puppy parties. I think that if they're well run and your experience, they're a good opportunity to mix your dog in that type of environment and to create that so what response. That my issue with them is that in a lot of instances, they aren't run in that manner. They are much more of a free-for-all. And for me, that's really, really allowing your dog's learning and your dog's temperament and the outcome to be more Russian roulette as opposed to intentional, purposeful, deliberate training and conditioning, which I think then has a lot of fallout. You know, there is I've known loads of experience where it's been done really, really badly, and I have known experiences where it's done really, really well. And the ones that I've done well, it's much more controlled, it's much more strategic, it's much more planned out, and those are great. But you really need to. What I would suggest, if you're thinking about attending a puppy party or even a puppy class with your puppy, and I always did this when I ran puppy classes, I always said to the owners, come and watch first. Don't bring the puppy, and just observe and see if this environment is for you. The reason being is I want them to feel comfortable. Yeah, there is semi-control. There's some, you know, whether we use barriers or distance, etc. There is some control measures. Again, the ratio of people, instructors versus puppies is really, really important. All those little details to allow you to go, yeah, I'm happy with this this situation. Again, if we take it back to children, I would always, like when my daughter was going to school, we did a bit of research about the school that she was going to so that we were comfortable. We look at the Ofsted reports that we went, yeah, we're comfortable with the school and its reputation and the environment, and we were allowed to go and have a look around before she went there. So that just made us feel like, yes, we trust these people. There is always going to be a level of jeopardy in any situation, but as long as you do your due diligence, you should, you know, make the right choice. All right, so next question, let's have a look at that. It's another one from Hannah. Is it better to socialize with an adult dog that is friendly versus a puppy? It's a good question. Di, your thoughts?
Again, it varies for the individual dog. I mean, I'd like my puppies to play with adult dogs, and particularly in more of an indoor setting. What I don't want to do is I don't want my puppy trying to chase an adult dog where it's trying to keep up with it, hasn't got the speed, maybe it's going to stretch tendons, ligaments, things like that, and that's going to end up giving me kind of longer term problems. But indoors, if you've got the right environment, I do like my puppies playing with adult dogs, and it very much depends on the adult dog and the way in which it's playing. But I love to see them, you know, lying on the floor with the puppy and doing all the kind of mouthing games, and that's going on a lot with, you know, the dog that I've got at the minute, who's 5.5 months. Between him and Tiggs, they lie on the floor for hours playing silly mouthing games. So, you know, I think a well-balanced adult dog can teach a puppy more, but I think it's also nice to have a puppy. And I must admit, I tend to go a little bit body weight for body weight. You know, if I've got, you know, some two little puppies kind of playing together, I mean, you know, they just have great fun. I probably wouldn't be happy with my small 8-week-old kind of, you know, border collie puppy playing with the, you know, big kind of 12-week-old Labrador puppy that was pouncing all over it, because I don't want any kind of negative kind of emotion. So I think you've got to look at the individual situation. I think both are positive. It's just looking at those individual dogs and how they're playing, and sizes of dogs and things like that.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's very much about that it's about the experience rather than the actual right or wrong. So you can mix your puppy, with an older dog, perfect, well adjusted, well balanced, and it doesn't mean it. Di said about it being playing. It doesn't have to be that. It might just be being around the other dog, and the other dog largely ignores it. That's a brilliant experience for your puppy to have. Where they give them effectively the cold shoulder and they go, look, I'm not interested in you, puppy. So what the puppy's learning is to be in the presence of another dog, but not actually interact with them. That's a great lesson for them to learn. I'm not one for letting my puppies be told off by my other dogs unnecessarily. If it happens organically, and obviously I'm observant of what they are doing, it's a natural thing for your older dog to say, hey, that's inappropriate if the puppy oversteps that mark. What I wouldn't want is if I took my puppy to meet a new dog, I wouldn't set it up to be sort of told off, as it were. I don't think that's a healthy experience. If it's done with my dogs in my environment, I think that's, and certainly in a controlled manner, that's absolutely impactful and really important. And they learn social boundaries with each other. It just needs to be obviously mindful of the dog's sensitivities. With the puppy, it's great for them to meet puppies and to play with them, and that's a nice experience for you to have. My personal, I tend not to do it overly, because one, I don't want my puppy to learn to just approach other dogs and play indiscriminately and get highly excited by seeing other dogs. That's one thing. The other thing is the puppy, unless it's with somebody like, for example, if I had a puppy and we said, let's walk around the living room, I would trust that Di would be able to get her puppy back, and I could get my puppy back by, some sort of, recall cue or intervention. It would, again, I don't want it to be a case of two puppies running around with us not being able to put any control measures in. And it's not because I don't want my puppies to have a joyful experience. It's just really about the learning. So again, it's always about what is the puppy going to gain from this particular instance. Nothing wrong with any of it. Just really take an objective look at it, of the environment, and what are they going to gain. So what I do with my puppies is let them mix with other puppies, and every now and again I'll call them back, do a collar grab, feed them, and let them go again. So I'm using the puppy as a distraction as well as a reinforcement. That's a great lesson for them to have, and it's great for them to be around. I think a lot of people like to meet up with siblings and let them meet up. It's a nice thing to do. Use those opportunities to work on your relationship and your recall and your foundation. That's why my advice would be.
So don't let the kind of arousal kind of build up within that, a little bit of kind of interactive play, and then come away, can you interact with me? And then a little bit of interactive play. I think, it's important, you want to be able to recall your dogs away from other dogs in the future. So it's important to have those kind of breakouts.
Yeah, absolutely. In those situations with other dogs and other puppies, I always look at them as learning opportunities for the puppy. What can my puppy learn? Definitely social interaction, definitely appropriate dog-to-dog communication, definitely social skills, and what I like, especially with my other breeds. I like to mix them with, or my, for example, my border collies, I like to mix them with other breeds of puppies if I have the opportunity, because it gives them cultural diversity, and they learn to read German Shepherd versus Beagle versus Labrador. If I have that opportunity, great. Again, I want to be working on my foundation skills. And also with my little dogs, I like them to meet dogs that, again, I feel comfortable with, so they can gain their confidence with other dogs. Because obviously little dogs, the tendency is to only mix them with dogs of the same size, and then moving forward they can be inhibited by dogs of different sizes. So all those little nuances, again, all this stuff is covered extensively on the Ultimate Puppy course. If you're interested, I've shared the link on the chat, so I'll just share it here. It's trainwithmarka.com/up. That will take you to the Ultimate Puppy course. And again, there's stacks of content relating to socialization, rearing your puppy, getting in your home, everything that you need to know about rearing your puppy to be a well-adjusted family pet. And
I think you'll see all those social skills that we're trying to teach them in different situations, and you'll see me and Kamal, handling kind of different dogs and doing some greetings and some work with those dogs.
Yeah. So loads of content in there. So unless there's any final questions, I'm just going to make sure, and on the other chats, there's nothing that we've missed out. And again, if we do, we can always pick it up tomorrow when we'll be doing another live. Let me have a look. I don't think there's on that one. Just make sure that we've picked up any questions. Thank you for those that have asked questions. I think that's it. I think that's all the questions. Okay. Di, is there anything else that you want to add on socialization before we wrap up things?
No, that's it from me.
Excellent. Again, socialization is definitely a conversation in itself. There is a skill to it. If you're interested in learning more about socialization, and you have a puppy, intend to get a puppy, know somebody with a puppy, run a dog club or dog training business where you deal with a lot of puppies, get the ultimate puppy course and share it with your clients and your friends and your family members, because honest to goodness, it's going to give you so much information. It's going to make a massive difference onto the dogs that they grow into. From me and Di, go on, Di, sorry.
I was just going to say one thing, you know, as a trainer, you know, I found, you know, when my clients have kind of done this course, they certainly have a much wider picture, and they're really kind of more open to doing lots more training, because they understand there's this, you know, there's a lot to learn.
Absolutely.
It certainly gives them a really good foundation.
So tomorrow we've got a slightly later time. So we're going to do our live at 3:30 tomorrow. And tomorrow we're talking, let me just get this right, puppy biting and sleep patterns. So again, giving you tips of how to deal with those, how to avoid those, what impact, how you can get your puppy, you know, to stop puppy biting. Something that I'd say we get loads of questions about. How do I stop my puppy biting? Simple things that you can do. And any questions that you have, by all means, share them on the various places where you may see this. Just tag myself or Di or Marka in the conversation, and we'll be notified so we can pick them up and answer your questions. But from me and from Di, thank you all for watching. Feel free to share this wherever you feel appropriate, where anybody's going to gain from the information in today's live. It will also be on the Marka YouTube channel, which I'll be sharing on the various social media platforms, which we've just started. So we're going to be putting loads of content on there, free content that people can access to make their puppies' lives better and educate people about how to raise dogs effectively. From me and from Di, whatever you're doing, enjoy the rest of your day. Be safe, everybody, and take care.
Bye-bye.